Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing, especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past. Hey all, Franco Musso here. Yes, I've hacked your podcast feed. I've held John and Mike hostage, but don't worry, I got my wires crossed and I'm actually paying them a small ransom in the form of sponsorship. Anyway, big announcement. I'm finally releasing my online Power Pages course. This has been 5 years in the making. It's tried and tested on citizen devs and portal makers all around the world. It's the course I wish existed when I was getting started. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it's project-based, so you're not wondering how the heck this would apply to the real world. I've built in battle-tested lessons I've learned from tens of successful portal projects across various industries, budgets, and geographies, and I've formulated the most efficient route from zero to heroic launch. The tools and techniques I've chosen to show you are all based on what adds the most value to you, the learner, and to your customers, all in the most compressed timeline possible. Think 80-20, focusing on the techniques that punch above their weight and deliver the majority of results. You'll get video lessons, a repeatable framework, and some super helpful worksheets. Visit francomusso.com/power-pages-course and register your interest. Disclaimer, this course isn't for you if you prefer hours of slides, theory, and little to no action. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.
Welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast with me, John Russell, and my co-partner, crab in crime, Mike Gowland. Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Yeah, all right, thanks. Nearly near the end of the week. I'm loving life. My birthday this weekend. Yeah. Going to Wetherspoons.
How old are you going to be?
35.
Yeah.
Today we are joined by Peter Rising. Peter is a consulting services manager at Insight, plus he runs his amazing YouTube channel. He's a professional and has over 25 years experience in Microsoft technologies. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Peter. How are you doing?
I'm really well, John and Mike. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to join you today.
No, thank you for coming on. We are very honoured.
Yeah, we are very honoured.
Yeah, definitely. Welcome to the podcast, Peter. First of all, could you tell us how you came into the Microsoft space and what was your journey like coming into tech?
Oh, wow. Well, it was a very happy accident. And in telling the story, I always show my age here because I'm going to be 52 this year. And I started my working life way back in 1988 as a retail assistant at John Lewis's in Newcastle, selling Sony Walkmans. But I realized quickly I didn't like that. And I ended up working in a law firm as an office junior, doing all of the sort of jobs that nobody else wanted to do, the photocopying, taking the letters to the post office, the shredding, and all that sort of stuff. And had no real career direction or skills or exams, didn't know what I wanted to do. But then, did that for a few years, just plodding along. And then in the mid-90s, technology started appearing, word processors, then PCs, and they had an IT manager, and she very, very quickly got very busy and said to me, would you fancy learning this and being my assistant? To which I said, yeah, sure. And finally, I had something to dig into, and I realized I took to it like a duck to water, and over the next few years, got a few jobs in different firms, got a job working for a IT solutions provider in the northeast of England, and from there, that's when I really got into the Microsoft side of things. So, and from there to here, it's just been onwards and upwards, and what a journey! I've loved it.
Nice work. Well done, Peter. It's really good. I mean, I lied about my age at the start. I'm not 35. We're like 6 years difference. So yeah, your YouTube channel is coming along like leaps and bounds. I know you recently got 7,000 subscribers, so like well done for that. That's an epic achievement.
That's incredible.
Yeah. We are 10x less than that on this podcast, so aim high, stretch goals, and all that. So I've noticed your branding on there is really, really good. Have you got any tips for like people who are trying to start a YouTube channel to kind of how they grow that listener or grow that viewer base?
It's all down to determination, persistency, and consistency. You're going to have highs and lows on that journey. I still do. I think I should be getting a little further, a little quicker. But keep the faith, keep on going, and just keep on plugging away. Share what you're doing as much as you can. Don't be afraid to be a little bolshy, and don't be afraid to ask for subscribers as well. It's part of the game. It's hey, help me out by subscribing to the channel, like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, all that good stuff, and just if you tell people it's free, they're happy to do it. So, and also there's a little link you can do with an auto subscribe that you can put on the end of the link. So when they hit that link, it'll automatically say, "Do you want to subscribe?" And most people, unless they're really mean, are just going to say, "Sure, yeah." So,
well, that's a nice tip. I didn't know about that one. That's good.
Yeah, I can share that with you.
I also quite like the saying that it's free as well. I might have to adjust our outro notes there, John.
Yeah, nice. Yes.
Doesn't cost you a penny.
Exactly. Takes a second. It's free to do so. And it helps us grow the channel so much and we reach that wider audience.
So, Peter, if you had to choose one focus or a niche working within the Microsoft 365 stack, what would it be? What's your favourite part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem?
Oh, very much in the realms of compliance and Microsoft Purview. So cybersecurity broadly. So that encompasses your Defender and your Entra from the security and identity part of it, which are happy places for me. But my real happy place is Purview, all things information protection, information governance, that sort of thing. And I think it's a real blank space, an opportunity where clients that I've been working with over the past few years have not adopted that so quickly as the other two things and have not really understood it so much, but the message is getting across now.
I suppose that has a massive knock-on effect with Copilot at the moment. I bet that's a huge area, right?
Oh, it certainly does, and it certainly should do, but it doesn't always translate, and organizations are very, very keen to adopt Copilot and get it out there quickly if they've invested in it, but it's so important that they look at their data first and look to make sure it's protected with the labels and DLP and make sure it's ready for that. And
are there any, would you say there are any gotchas, like kind of like, you know, things that you keep seeing within clients that, you know, that they could do something that would stop that from happening or kind of be one step ahead?
As much as anything, it comes down to communication within those organizations and realizing that compliance is a team sport, and it's very often perceived as an IT problem, and IT departments get lumbered with all of it, but it needs to have multiple disciplines involved, from HR to data protection to leadership teams. Everyone needs to be involved in that, and that's the only way that protecting that sort of data is going to succeed. So that's the main thing that I see, that lack of awareness of who needs to be involved.
And so that also then knocks onto, sorry, Mike, that also knocks onto kind of like user adoption and change management as well.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And that is a crucial part of implementing these technologies in any organization, large or small. I mean, I've been recently working with a very, very large healthcare trust here in the UK, and we've implemented adoption and change management as part of that. And that has been crucial to the success of their implementation of information protection tools like Microsoft Purview and DLP and labels, and they've been looking at Copilot as well as part of that. So adoption and change, can't emphasize that enough. The communication of why we're doing this, how we're doing this, when we're doing this, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. So we don't really get a lot of people on here. Well, we haven't had anyone on here to talk about Purview before. A lot of our guests have been predominantly around Power Platform or AI. As a customer looking into Purview, why would I need Purview? Why would I go for it? What are the benefits and what are the features that we'd be looking at?
If you think of cybersecurity as a whole, even outside the world of Microsoft, but then if you break it down into the acronym of SCI, Security, Compliance, and Identity, a lot of customers will rush to protect their endpoint devices, which comes into the security side of things. They will also want to harden and protect their identities, have a robust identity, because let's face it, in the cloud, identity is the modern security perimeter. But the compliance of that acronym, the C of SC&I, often gets ignored. It's almost like the middle child syndrome, if you like. And it's arguably, from my point of view, the most important, because if a malicious actor, if those bad guys out there, and these are very persistent people and groups with a lot of sophisticated tools at their disposal, including AI, if they penetrate your identities and take advantage of a device that isn't quite up to the protection levels it needs to be, then they're in, and they can get at your data. And if you think about it, the data is what they want. They want to steal it, encrypt it, sell it, implement ransomware. So the data is the most crucial aspect. So protecting that, governing it, for me, is the most important part, but it's the part that's considered the least.
Peter, when we first heard from you about being on the podcast, you said that you were interested in talking about neurodiversity. Could you and mental health maybe as a broader subject, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey with both of those, if you're willing to do so? That is, of course.
Of course, yeah, I'm more than happy to. I'm very open about my own journey, and it's something that I became aware of about 11 years ago now, back in 2013, when I had what I now realize was a breakdown. And I'd been going through a lot of very significant life events in that time. My youngest son was diagnosed with autism, and in the same week, my mother passed away after a 9-year illness. And then not long after that, we moved house, and it all built up, and I thought I was coping, but clearly I wasn't, because I had what ultimately transpired to be my first panic attack. And I was at work. I had my own little office at the time, working for this manufacturing company. And all of a sudden, I just didn't feel right. I felt as though something physically was very wrong with me. And I jumped up, alarmed, and ran out into the sort of finance team, which was outside my room. They looked very concerned. They said I had turned a shade of grey. My whole complexion had changed. They took me to the hospital, got me checked out, and they said, "Well, you've had a panic attack." And I was, "No, can't be. That it feels like there's something very physically wrong." But over the next few months, I really pestered the doctors and said, "No, I don't believe this is what this is. There's something wrong with me." So the poor doctors, they sent me for all manner of tests, MRIs, and also, but there was nothing came back. So eventually, I had to accept that I had developed panic attacks and anxiety, and I got counseling for that. I went on the medication, and finding the right medication was a journey in and of itself, because I did get some side effects which were unpleasant. But eventually I found the right balance, and after about 6 months, I came out the other end of that awful period where I basically didn't feel like the same person. I didn't recognize myself anymore. And to this day, I've never really gone back to the way I was before that. I always have some level of feeling spaced out or panicky, and I get attacks still occasionally. But I've learned how to manage that over the years, and understand my triggers and techniques to put in place to deal with those, varying from breathing to exercising to better eating to less alcohol. But the important thing is I understand that journey now. So in part, I mean, I felt very alone during that period because I didn't know what was happening to me. It was very confusing, very scary. I actually thought I was going to die. In my own mind, I thought, I'm dying here and nobody realizes it. But hey, 11 years later, I'm still here. So clearly the doctors were right and I was wrong. But it's been a hell of a journey, no doubt.
Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for sharing that, because it is obviously very personal. But I totally agree with you about trying to get these things out in the open. I've had similar challenges. I think from what I can kind of remember, I had probably a breakdown in about 2017, and yeah, very similar to what you said. I was in a previous employer. I went to the bathroom, and all of a sudden, my vision started kind of like caving in to like I could basically not really see. And I remember the only thing that I remember doing was I called my sister, and she managed to kind of talk me down a little bit. But that was definitely at the time I didn't really realize what it was, and I came out of there and I was like, what is going on? I don't even know where I am. And yeah, that was a panic attack. And like you, I still get them occasionally. I think the last one I had was probably when I was at our employer's offices. And again, I still didn't realize actually that it was a panic attack because I think they can be quite unique, and they can kind of come from nowhere. And so I just thought I was a bit hot. But there was a couple of people who, luckily where we work, and obviously other places are like it, but it's a really people-focused organisation, and there's a lot of people looking out for me, making sure that I was okay. Thanks for sharing that. So on the how's your son doing?
He's doing really well. He's come a long way. I mean, he's 14 years old now, and the pandemic hit him hard because things changed and we all stopped going to work and school. And it's actually taken him until very recently to start attending school again. We couldn't get him back for close to 4 years, and he's only now just started attending through very great support from the school, who actually came to our house every day and saw him for a period of time and engaged with him, and slowly started building that trust back up and getting him in to go and sit in their cars and then go a little bit further, take him around the street, take him to the supermarket and then to the school, but not go in, and built it up slowly. So, but he's doing so well. He's actually at home today because he's not very well. He's got a nasty little snuffle, so he's resting. But he's done so well going back. But that journey has been incredible. I've learned so much about myself through Oliver's diagnosis. It's taught me a lot about my own leading into neurodiversity, which you touched on, John, in that self-realization that I am most certainly on the autism spectrum myself. And some of the things that we've learned in the past 10 or 11 years about Oliver since he was diagnosed have resonated in me, and thought that makes so much sense about my own childhood and how I felt like I was always on the outside looking in, didn't fit in, got teased and picked on, and I didn't quite understand why I was different. So, and I've learned to embrace that as well. And I finally realized that after all of my life of thinking I was less than, I'm not. I'm just different than, and that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a very, very rewarding and powerful thing to kind of realize when you get to that.
Yeah. And that's great news about Oliver as well, that he's he's going back to school and he's getting on really well. I actually, so South Coast Summit 2022, the first time I ever found out who Peter Rising was I went to your session on that very story about your mental health and neurodiversity journey with your son. Yeah, that was a brilliant session. Do you still do that session, or?
Not that particular one. I could do, and I'd like to deliver it again. I didn't go to any in-person events last year for various reasons. It's because of the family dynamic. It's hard for me to commit to those sometimes. I have registered for Scottish Summit this year, so I'm hoping. Well, I will be going either way, but I've submitted some sessions. One is on a neurodiversity flavour, so I'm hoping that comes about, but we shall see.
Oh, that's brilliant.
We shall see.
If that does get selected, I strongly recommend anyone listening to attend that session, because it was very, very good.
Nice.
So, Peter, we have a section on this podcast called Uncomfortable Corner.
Uncomfortable Corner.
I need to change that. So, Peter, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable, whether it was inside or outside of work, and how did it make you feel, and how did you get through it?
Ooh, uncomfortable. That's a really good question. You flummoxed me here, because I'm so used to being resistant to change and challenge and adversity that I'm trying to figure out a recent time that I was uncomfortable. You've really got me. I guess
Peter, Peter, are you saying that you don't often feel uncomfortable, or are you saying that you feel uncomfortable all the time?
No, I don't think I feel uncomfortable at all, really, these days. I think since I've got into a sense of self-discovery, self-realization of my mental health awareness and my neurodiversity, I think I've become very, very at ease with myself and who I am and around others. And over the past few years, I mean, since COVID, I've grown out this massive beard and this wizard hair, and I've kind of got this, I don't what other people think of me is none of my business sort of attitude. I am who I am.
I think it's marvellous.
Yeah. I was going to ask if we could reference Wizards in the episode name at all, but...
Yeah. Wizards. But uncomfortable. I mean, the only thing that springs to mind is phobias. I do have some phobias. I have a big phobia of snakes. Is my biggest phobia of all. So if I to the point that I can't even bear to look at them, I have to look away. They repel me so much. So, and that's quite a common phobia I've learned. It's called a phytophobia. So if I'm ever watching a movie or a TV show and suddenly we're in a jungle or a desert or something like that, I'm instantly on edge. Oh, will there be a snake in there? So it's like, it sounds ridiculous to anyone who hasn't got that, but there's a lot of people suffer from it.
No, phobias are just they're a very powerful thing, aren't they? I mean, mine's slugs. I can't look at them. I can't go near them. Unfortunately, I've got a garden full of them. So,
yeah.
In fact, actually, what I've got to do this weekend is refurbish the barbecue, and the barbecue cover is covered in slugs, and I am very much putting that job off. And I'm thinking about just getting the pressure washer and just standing from a distance and doing it that way, which sounds cruel.
Yeah, good idea. Fortunately for me, I don't have a garden full of snakes. In the UK, I'm quite lucky in that it's not something I'm going to come up against. I'm acutely aware that a lot of people do like to keep exotic pets, though, and I do sometimes think, I'll bet you there's a big snake in my street somewhere in one of these houses, and that really freaks me out, the thought of that. But I try to put that to one side.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of... just trying to think about the slug thing again. I'm trying to keep it out of my head.
Get the pressure washer. Have you got a pressure washer?
I have got a pressure washer.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to do.
Yeah. Or I could send my daughter Esme round. She loves slugs. She'll come and sort them all out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for that.
My wife's phobia is even worse. My wife's phobia, which now I'm going to have to tell her that I'm talking about it, because then she won't listen to this episode. So we're going to have one less viewer. But hers is bananas.
Bananas, right?
She can't say the word without wanting to throw up. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard her say it.
Wow.
It got to the point where we've got two children, 7 and 5, and until about 3 weeks ago, I'd never seen them eat a banana in person, because we don't have bananas in the house. So it's when we went to my auntie's house and they were eating a banana, and I was like, what? It was like, honestly, the first time I've ever seen them eat a banana in my personal space, because they're just forbidden in the house. And I will often have to do a recce into the house that we're going into to see if there's any bananas, and either hide them or put them away before my wife can come into the house.
Wow. There's a lot of food phobias. I mean, my sister-in-law, she has the same with beetroot, to the extent that she can't even hear the word, like your wife there, John.
Yeah.
And quite famously, if you're a fan of WWE wrestling, which I am for my sins, I've always loved it. The Undertaker is famously afraid of cucumbers.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. No.
That's a fact.
That's wicked.
He talked about it recently on his own podcast, which he does now. So,
has there ever been any fights, any wrestling matches where someone's brought out a cucumber?
Apparently, there's a lot of if you know wrestling, you know that there's a lot of backstage ribbing that goes on in the back between all the wrestlers.
Yeah, we know
wind
about
each other up. So.
Wrestlers ribbing each other, don't we, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've put cucumbers in his bag and his locker over the years, that sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, this uncomfortable corner went to places I didn't think it would go to. Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to go there, no.
Nor did I. It's because I couldn't think of an answer. I mean, what sort of answers do you normally get? I mean, and has it ever been flipped on you guys? Have you ever been forced to answer the question yourself?
Imposter syndrome comes up a lot. But I can see how you probably don't have that, because you're very comfortable in who you are and who you've become. So, I mean, that's a really nice message, and a really nice message to convey to other people that might be feeling something similar, or having recently been diagnosed with a neurodiverse condition or with mental health conditions, and knowing that there is a way out, more so of the mental health side than the neurodiverse side, but also to embrace yourself. And I think that's a really, really strong message.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, most certainly it is. You be true to yourself, and you can't go far wrong. I mean, I have had imposter syndrome in my time. I'm still capable of that. I'll still sometimes have that self-doubt, and am I actually any good at this? And if people are they going to find out that I'm not? And so, but broadly speaking, I've got to a comfortable place in my life now, and I am what I am, and I'm grateful for what I've got. So, but I can see how that one comes up.
That's
for sure.
Awesome. I think that's all we've got time for this episode. Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on. Very sorry about the technical issues that we've had throughout today's recording. You can find Peter on LinkedIn and on his Peter Rising Microsoft 365 YouTube channel. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast. It doesn't cost you anything to do it, so you don't miss the next episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn, and if you're really enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
See you later. Thanks for coming along, Peter.
Peter Rising.
It's a great pleasure.
Say goodbye, Peter.
Goodbye, Peter.
And I'm Mike. Goodbye, Mike. See you in the next episode.
Have a good one.
Love you, John.
Love you, Mike.
Love you, Peter.
Love you too, guys.
Love you, Peter.
Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing. Especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past.
Hey all, Franco Musso here again. Quick update on that hostage situation. Hopefully the smell isn't coming across the airwaves. I haven't let the guys use the bathroom yet, so the joke's definitely on me. Anyway, big announcement. So, by popular demand, join me and a cohort of other budding portal makers for live coaching sessions, weekly live training, office hours, Q&A and surgeries. I'll guide you through the process from zero to launch, all at a fraction of the cost of hiring a freelancer or a contractor. It's like having a trusted partner on hand, helping you avoid the pitfalls, saving you a ton of money, headache and time. Plus, you're bound to learn lots from others in the group as we discuss their experiences, challenges and solutions. To apply, head on over to francomusso.com/group-coaching.